Belgium SuperTraining.tv, Super Training Gym, the strongest gym in the West. Here's my boy, Jared Davis, a.k.a. JD. JD is a Reebok representative. He was out for some CrossFitty stuff, and he had a chance to hang at the Slanger Mansion and had a chance to come into Super Training and do some lifting, and it was just awesome having him around. You know, he's my hookup at Reebok, and it's you know, it was great to be able to host him, and great to be able to just kind of let the dude chill for a day, and just like he used the Slanger hot tub, and he just kind of chilled at my house. The dude got to relax for 5 seconds. He does not normally do that. Doesn't normally get a chance to do that. He's grinding it out, working his ass off for Reebok, and trying to fulfill the demands of myself and Jesse Burdick, who are just pretty much always just yelling at him or telling him how many times we pooped for the day. And so it was cool to kind of relieve him of that and just let him train and just be a meathead like the rest of us. But he came in typical CrossFit fashion. He lifted pretty good. You see Silent Mike busting some moves back there in front of Bob Evans. I don't know what they're doing. Doing weird stuff with their feet. It's not really looking that great. I don't know what's going on. I don't know when that became a thing to look down at your feet and move around, but it should have never happened. It doesn't look very good. Here we go, working on some technique with JD. He actually just came in and pulled great. You know, a lot of times the CrossFitters get bashed because you know, what they do is different from the rest of us, but what we see, what I end up seeing, is a lot of times these dudes are pretty strong. So I'm going with some sumo pulls on this day, mixing it up back and forth a little bit with some bands on there. Again, the bands accommodate resistance, make the weights heavier at the top and lighter at the bottom, teach you to accelerate. It can help build up speed off the floor. Some people kind of think because the weight is lighter at the bottom that it won't help you build up speed, because it won't get you kind of accustomed and used to how heavy the weight would actually be from the bottom. But that's not true. It can help build acceleration, help build speed, and help kind of teach you how to break those weights off the floor aggressively and fastly. I just made up a word, I think. So we got JD going here again. Now he's got about 365 pounds on there. Those bands are on there pretty good. They added at least 100 pounds or so. Maybe more like 150, somewhere in there. So it was a pretty good weight. A lot of times when we're deadlifting at Super Training, we mix up, you know, we go back and forth, as you're seeing here, between sumo pulling and conventional pulling. Why not work on both? Why not work on, if your left hand is normally always under, why not work on having your right hand under as well? Why not switch things up a little bit? Why not work your grip in different ways, work your stance in different ways, especially with the lighter weights when it doesn't really matter. There's no risk of injury with those lighter weights. There's no reason why you can't do something a little bit different with those lighter weights, and it just helps you get in more work, more overall volume. We got Moody going with some sumo deadlifts. This wonderful Truffle Shuffle shirt on. I guess it's Mowdy. I always pronounce his name wrong. It's Mowdy, not Moody. Yeah, his real name is Detroit, whether he likes it or not. JD's got some weight on there now, going up over 400 pounds. Got our boy Silent Mike. Silent Mike's trying to take over the world, one deadlift at a time. Silent Mike went with some straps. We got some different people doing some different shit at different times at Super Training. Here's Dave Ziski, Big Z, strong as a mofo, blasting out some squats. Dave is preparing for Raw Unity Rum, which I believe is like February. He's preparing for that, so we're trying to get him up to an 800-pound deadlift, an 800-pound squat, and a hopefully get him around a 530-pound bench or so by the time that meet rolls around. So I might banging out some reps. You can see getting rounded a little bit there towards the end. But keep in mind, if you do everything perfect all the time, that's not a great way to make progress. You're going to have to get into some compromising positions from time to time in order to make strength gains. Strength training can't always be safe. 80 to 90% of it, maybe more like 95% of it should be fairly safe. But there's that maybe about 5% or so where you are going to get rounded over. Your position will get compromised a little bit, and that is what makes you stronger. Weights are kind of forcing you out of position. You got to overcome that shitty position, and you got to try to drive your way out of it. You got to find your way out of it, and that's what helps get you more stronger. Here goes Big Z going again. Got a little bit of an unorthodox style. He drives his knees forward, his hips are a little bit forward. But in working with so many different athletes, when somebody's great, then you can only try to tweak them so much. There's no reason to do too many different things with him. His squat form is different, but it's good enough, it's efficient enough, and it's improving. It's ever improving. That's the main thing, is that you're constantly evolving as a lifter and constantly evolving as a coach and learning from, admitting when you're wrong. It's not easy to do. Marcus has a unique style. He kind of leans forward. He kind of uses his lower back when he squats. He's not afraid to kind of lean into it a little bit. But as you saw, that squat was plenty explosive enough. And Big Z here too. He's got a lot of strength, and he could probably sit back on these a little bit more, and we're working on that. Because that's actually going to help him with his depth a little bit as well. Try to drive those hips back a little bit and open up at the same time. It'll help kind of sink him into the hole a little bit better. But as a coach, you got to just realize every guy is different. This is Bob Evans is going here, and he's been banned from dancing in the gym, by the way, just in case people are wondering. Marcus almost fell, it looks like, right there. But Dan is probably every bit of 6'4" or 6'5", and he's going to actually squat quite different than a lot of the rest of us. So his positioning, the way that he squats, the way that he moves, is going to be a little bit different than everybody else. Sometimes his knees come in a little bit. Those kind of things are going to happen when the weights get to be heavy. But he's doing some great things as well. I think that was about 605 right there. May have been a little bit more depending on what barbell that was. You can see JD here has got the slang shot knee sleeves on. You get those from howmuchbench.net. JD is because he's a CrossFitter. The CrossFitters use a lot of different. They use a lot of weightlifting, and I like to have people switch things up quite a bit. So we were doing a touch and go box squat right here because Olympic lifters tend to, or people that get taught to Olympic lift, when they do a squat, a lot of times they dive bomb their squats. And not that dive bombing your squats are wrong, but again, just to switch things up a little bit, we decided to go with a touch and go from a different height. And so now, instead of crashing on his own body, which is very typical, again, of Olympic-style lifts and Olympic-style squats, we are trying to reverse the weights ourselves. As Louis Simmons has said with his reverse hyper machine, which we don't have one of those. You need to get one because those things rule. But the reverse hyper extension machine is something that when you utilize it, you can go nuts on that thing. You can use a shitload of weight, but you really have to learn how to reverse the weight yourself. And that's exactly what we're trying to teach here. With this particular movement, this particular exercise, we're trying to reverse the weight ourselves. And you can see, trying to stay tight. I'm not really sitting on the box at all. I'm trying to almost reverse myself before touching the box. So as soon as I make contact with that, I'm trying to reverse the weight and come back up. When Silent Mike did that exercise, he said it was killing his knees, but I think that's all the reason more to utilize stuff like that. We've had lifters in the past too bitch about, or not bitch about, bitch out, I should say, about good mornings. And then they cut them out of their workout, which is the worst thing you could do. When something hurts, when something sucks, just go lighter on it, but don't cut it out completely. Good strong lift there by Bob Evans. A lot of progress made by him, and that is it from supertraining.tv.